So welcome everyone. Welcome to the third Wednesday executive lunch. This happens the third Wednesday of every month. You're all executives, you're all business owners, entrepreneurs, thrill seekers. My name is Kurt. I work for a company, the 100 Inc., which you've seen going along here. So right off the bat, we want to send all of you to the 100.work, support our members. I want to say thank you to our sponsors who are scrolling up here. Those are a few of our members that we appreciate. And we're going to get right to it. These are always extremely casual events. They're conversations. They're not presentations. We want everybody to be engaged. If you want to ask a question, just raise your hand, shout them out, whatever. This is all participation, conversation, discussion. So we're going to be going through our questions. If you want to add questions, you think of something along the way, we want your input. This is so that you guys as business owners and executives can not only get answers, but you can help out the other business owners with your answers and experience as well. So we're going to let our two moderators introduce each other this morning. Ladies first.
I want to go first.
I want to go first. I love that.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Andrea Hochhalter, but I'm going to introduce Michael Johnson to you. So Michael Johnson, some of you may know him, some of you may just be getting to know him, but he's an amazing business coach. He helps entrepreneurs go through an inflection point in transitioning from being their own boss or owning a job to creating the success that they envision. He's amazing. Michael spent the first 13 years of his career working full-time, building a one-stop shop for business solutions, including, this is a healthy list, business consulting, accounting, tax, and investment advice, while simultaneously working at the North Dakota Air National Guard as an aircraft mechanic. Very talented man. Since 1986, Michael has helped over 400 businesses and organizations. For example, Premier Benefits Group, the M State Foundation, Bostrom Electric, Odegaard Wings, and Cornerstone Specialties, and those are just a few of them. He coaches several disciplines of business, including leadership development, financial management, building effective cultures through mentorship, brand building, marketing, sales, and different delivery activities as well. Michael takes a truly holistic approach to helping others build their business, and you can see that he can do this. He has the capacity based on all of his background and experience that he brings. He has quite the list of credentials as well, too, in his education and certifications as coaching. Dave Ramsey, a couple endorsements there. He's an enrolled agent. He's a fellow of the National Tax Practitioners Institute, investment advisor representative, and other insurance credentials as well, too. Like I said, it's a healthy list. Go check out his website to see them all. The firm has a deep bench of experts in business development, marketing, graphic design, legal, employee benefits, and so forth. Michael's worked the last several years as a business coach and advisor, successfully helping small businesses and owners transition from that business that they own to a business which enables them to create that success. The best prospect for Michael, when we think about him, is an entrepreneur that's coming to grips with the perspective to attain the idea of success, that they need to control and create a proper business structure. They know the change is necessary, and they need to help to clear the path with their advisors. So Michael and his wife Donna enjoy their dogs. They like traveling out west, and they like quiet days on the water. And talk to Michael afterwards or in regards to some special opportunities that he has available to members, people present here today, and members of the 100 Inc. as well. So let's give it up for Michael.
Well, it's my turn to do Andrea. And Andrea is passionate about helping teams, organizations, communities succeed and solve issues by providing facilitative leadership, guiding groups through a process to reach their desired outcomes. Andrea is a professional facilitator and the owner of Beyond Facilitation, a company she founded on the premise that people support the world they help create. Using participatory methods, Andrea designs facilitated meetings and events, engages participants to stimulate innovative thinking, enables collaboration, and develops facilitative leadership skills in others. Andrea has worked with executives, managers, project leaders, home resource professionals, educators, and communities to solve issues and build teams for higher performance, saving time and energy while tapping into group wisdom and achieving better outcomes. The work of Beyond Facilitation includes long-range strategic planning, community-wide and cross-sector environmental scanning events, consensus workshops to help groups reach agreement, change management initiatives, among many other facilitation tools. Andrea's leadership experience with corporate, nonprofit, startups, information technology, and organization development provides her the unique ability to understand the issues your organization is trying to solve. As a trained technology of participation, TOP facilitator, practitioner, using methods, tools, and approaches to foster participation and meaningful collaboration. Andrea is a member of the Global Network and a team of top professionals. She is also a certified vision facilitator of Rotary International and certified in the Dale Carnegie process. Before her life as an entrepreneur, Andrea worked at Microsoft developing teams and leading projects nationally and internationally. She has an MBA in Information Systems and a bachelor's in Psychology. Give it up for Andrea.
Again, a great idea having those guys read those. Works every time. So, this is the first time we've done this format, this CEO's Roundtable, Collective Wisdom we call it. So if this goes well, the plan is to do this on a quarterly basis in 2019. Do this once a quarter. I hope it gets to be known where this is the thing to do once a quarter, is to go to this informative session. So we're going to just, how are we going to do this? We're going to put 3 minutes and 30 seconds on the clock. We've got 40 questions up here right now. We won't get through all 40. Probably half of them came from you guys through email when you got a ticket. Half of them came from some of our members prior to this event that we've been holding on to for a while. But we'll put 3 minutes and 30 seconds up. The buzzer will go off. We want input from these guys. We've got other business coaches in the room, experienced business owners. Raise your hand, lend some expertise to the question, and what?
My challenge for everybody is to answer 2 questions. That's my challenge to you, okay? You had an opportunity to look at the wall. There's a lot of great questions out here. And what do you do with best advice? With the advice you have? You share it. You all have amazing backgrounds and experiences with something to share. And so go for it. And something you may share is going to build on somebody else's idea. We are a group here of 30-some people. There can be 30 different answers, and they're all great answers. So I challenge you to answer some questions and put it out there, because there's not going to be 2 or 3 people that answer all the questions. This is a collective effort of collective wisdom. So that is my challenge to you.
Okay, let's go. Let's go. Let's rock and roll. Question number 1. What to do when my management team is not clicking and it is hurting the business and other teams?
We'll give you folks a chance first. Anybody have any ideas?
Dave?
Let's see. When I look at that, I think, because I'm all about my core values right now, what's happening. So I'm thinking maybe somebody is not on the core value as everybody else in the management team, which is meaning they're not clicking because they're not on the same page. And if they're not on the same page, maybe there's a spot that is not the right person in the right seat. That's all I can think of.
Mike?
So we lock management teams in a room and tell them they can't go to the bathroom until they have rules of engagement. And then actually teach them how to give feedback to each other in terms of, hey, what's working, what's not working, what are the behaviors that undermine us as a group, and just actually have everyone commit to doing that day. And what happens is they gain courage, and it's kind of a phenomenal exercise. We always tell it, it's the hardest thing you're going to do as a management team is to do that exercise.
Absolutely. Well, and also, on the back of your programs is a blank sheet, and it's just for notes. So if you want to write things down, and if there's somebody who says something that you want to contact afterwards, quick jot down their name, and we'll try to make introductions if you don't know them. Mike Mahar with Agency, right here. So.
Can we have people do that when they answer the question?
Absolutely. Yeah. If you, you should start your answer with who you are and where you work, so that people can hopefully remember that. Anybody else?
Oh, Dave?
Oftentimes, in situations like this, we find out or learn that there aren't necessarily clear accountabilities for outcomes. And that helps people understand, especially in management, what their role is, what their counterpart's role is, and how they need to work together to support each other. And the culture is very, very important to that. And working through these issues is where you need to start building trust amongst management team members. And a lot of times that conversation is going to happen. If they have a problem with each other or somebody notices that, they're going to bring that up as an issue in their leadership meetings and they have a discussion about it. Sometimes that starts offline, one-on-one with the CEO, the president, the general manager, with those individuals, but often that starts to come up then in their leadership meetings. Hey, why aren't we clicking? Let's solve this. And if there's any trust there, you can have those conversations there.
And if you aren't having leadership meetings, you need to be.
A great book for this is, many of you have probably read it, Five Dysfunctions of a Team by Patrick Lencioni. A great baseline book for this topic.
How do you spell the last name?
Lecioni, Patrick Lencioni. Lencioni. Yeah, sorry, thanks.
And there's that. That was 3 minutes and 30 seconds. Hey, we did it. Question 2. What is the #1 turnoff or negative first impression a customer has toward a business? This one came from somebody in the crowd, so. Ooh. Todd Fuchs, Barrel Express.
So,
I'm going to do a Donahue
I
here.
won't mention Midco in my,
I won't mention Midco, I mean the place I went to, but #1, when I go to a website and I have to log in order to find out anything about them,
Yeah.
that ticks me off. And I spent 25 minutes this morning on that little issue this morning. So.
Or if I go to a website or somewhere that all of a sudden it's pop up, pop up, pop up, I'm gone. I'm on to the next shopping thing.
But you know, the #1 way people find out about us anymore is the internet. And if you've got an annoying website, automatically you got a turn off. And I think it's important that we look at our sites and make sure that they're current, make sure that they're functional, that you don't click on something and wind up on an error 404, or but don't make people jump through hoops just to find out what it is you do or what you got for sale. That just drives me crazy.
Coincidentally, Payroll Express Inc. has been recently redesigned. It looks really nice.
Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah.
Let's do a no one's name.
Heather All.
I'm Heather All. I work for the Women's Business Center, but previously I was at Better Business Bureau, so we have a little experience here. The thing that we heard over and over and over, it was always the attitude of the first person they talked to. So if it's the attitude of the website, right, your website's bad. If it's the person on the phone, if it's the first contact they have when they walk into your business, that is always the first negative impression, and a customer will leave every single time.
That's a good little simple point. Mr. Arvidsson, Don Arvidsson, Express Pros.
I'll just add on to what that wonderful advice was. I was on vacation last week, and that first impression on the telephone is remarkable to any company. It's either good or bad. You're either selling or you're not selling with that initial introduction on the phone. So I was in Arizona and I needed something. I called the store and see if you can recognize this store. Beagle Helmuth. What is Beagle Helmuth?
Excuse me?
Beagle Helmuth. Beagle Helmuth. So I'm going, my goodness. I'm sorry, I think I called the wrong number. I was calling Bigelow Tires. And the person says, yeah, what do you need? So if it wasn't within a few blocks of where I was at, my goodness, I would have taken probably time to maybe find another tire shop, but, so it was, the gentleman I was talking to, his name was Helmuth. So, you know,
Oh, Vigo.
so can you imagine the difference, you know, good morning, Big O Tires, this is Helmuth, may I help you? You know, so it might sound so simple, but I think it would, often when I call different businesses, it's a great first impression.
Big ego.
And I'll add one thought. When we're working on building brand, one of the things we talk about out of the gate is what's your product? And of course, the answer coaches are waiting for is the thing they sell or the service they provide. When the thing that you really want to learn is your brand is, or your product is your company. It's that image that you're trying to build in the marketing, in the market, that tells everyone in the market who you are, what you stand for, what's different about you, so that you're building that identity. And it just so happens that you might sell insurance too. But it's the way you do that. That's what your brand is.
So what's the rule? How do we cut people off when they've gone over the 3 minutes and 30 seconds? Question number 3. How many steps are there in your hiring process?
Let's talk about the hiring process.
Yeah, I want to hear about it.
Okay. Dave wants to hear about it.
So this isn't going to answer how many steps, but one thing that we've had a lot of success with in hiring is to do a peer interview. So instead of upper management, just trying to find the right person and throw them into a team, having the team members as well be part of that interview process.
Jessica Hoffey with the Lawrence Bank. Robin Nelson, Boys and Girls Club.
I don't have as many steps either, but I think the first thing we do before the hiring process is reevaluate our strategic, our org chart to make sure that that position is needed. That's the very first thing. And if this position is created out of talent or if it actually fits into their job description, because you also have positions be replaceable. So analyzing the need for the position first.
Values, evaluation of fit to the values, and how are you, sorry, just a mention of the values and the importance and relevance in prioritizing the values you have as an organization, and to match that potential hire with those values and how you do that. Mike, do you have some thoughts about this?
10 steps.
10?
Ours is a 10-step process.
And why is that, Mike?
Because evaluating fit takes time, and interviews are like really inaccurate in terms of evaluating fit, and so the more touches, the more input you can get into it, the better. So.
Yeah, the way I look at it is the more times you have those touches, the more information you're gathering. You're trying to get a profile, you're trying to get a picture of who these candidates are. And one interview just doesn't do it. In our world, we do about 8 different steps. Because we just want to get all kinds of information about these people.
What do the steps look like?
What do the steps look like, Mike?
We usually, when we're dealing with service businesses, which pretty much any business has got some kind of a service aspect to it, we do an interview by phone, we do a written interview, we do a team interview, we do what's called a disc assessment, and then at the very end of the process, when we're down to the last couple of candidates, I'm the last one to do an interview. And that interview is actually at dinner with their spouse and with my spouse. And the point of that is, we have seen with ourselves as well as other businesses, it's not always the employee that's the issue, or the potential issue. Sometimes it's the spouse. And having my spouse at dinner with me gives me one more important point of view for me to listen to when that meeting's over. So, again, it's just information gathering is the whole point.
So really, your wife does the hiring.
Step number 1, your wife hires
I don't mind admitting to that.
Okay, next question. How do I protect my business name? Any attorneys in the room? I don't think we do today. But who's got some experience?
Well, you need to register it on the Secretary of State's site.
Step one.
Yeah, thank you. Paul Lear, Capital Credit Union, do business and commercial lending, but it's very important that if you feel you've got a name that you want to protect that's unique, you need to register it to get the copyright to it or with the Secretary of State. And then you probably, you do need to get to the legal part of it and with an attorney, because if you're picking certain color coding, etc., that goes with that, that can deepen the protection of it. Now, I know, for example, some of the big multinational companies, you take Wells Fargo and those, and there's people in here that do marketing promotion. There's certain Pantone colors that are in logos that somebody says, I'm gonna, just do a little offshoot and have a logo that just looks almost like it, but it's a little different. But if you can solidify all those things, you protect your name better, and then guard it well and defend it.
First thing we encourage people to do is Google the name.
Google the name, make sure it's available. And even if it's available in your state, today with the internet, you don't want to have the same name as 20 other companies across the United States, or worldwide for that matter.
The other little important difference is if you file it as an assumed name or a fictitious name, that's not protecting you. That's informing the public that you're doing business as a different name than your own. What you want, and that's what you were speaking to, is you want a trade name. That gives you protection, because then no one can use that name, especially if you do a national level trade name. You're protected throughout the United States. But yeah, an assumed name, a fictitious name or an assumed name, you're just telling the general public, this is me doing business as.
Yeah, we saved a minute and 30 seconds there. Excellent. Next question. Do most business owners have business plans? Do most keep them current, and how in-depth are those business plans? Who keeps a current business plan? How many in the room? So 1/3 have business plans of this particular group. How often do you redo them? Quarterly, annually, 5 years, 10 years? Quarterly? That's rare. Way to go.
Traction.
Yep. How in-depth? Do you do a little 1 or 2 page business plan that you sort of update, or you do a full 25 to 30 pager?
Just summaries.
Summaries. David Deeds with preference.
Key focuses for that quarter by each individual.
Okay.
What value, for those of you that do have your business plan and keeping them updated, so what value, for those of you that are creating your business plans and keeping them updated, what value are you finding in doing that? You're doing it for a reason, so what value is there?
Oh.
Okay, as a lender, I'm going to speak as a lender. I would say that the 30% that have a business plan is probably pretty accurate. I would say most of those, maybe 50% of that 30%, do keep them current. And the more in depth they are, the higher their probability of success. I don't know if you know Paul Smith from the Small Business Development Center in here. A lot of you are shaking your head yes, but he has a remarkable statistic that those that created a good, well thought out business plan, both narratively and management structure and financial structure, there's like a 4 times probability that they will be in business in 5 years from when they started that business. Those that don't have a huge failure rate. Yesterday, excuse me, I went to meet with a young couple who started a business a year ago. They worked with Smith on putting together a plan. Their business is doing better than expected from a sales standpoint. Some of the expenses are unique and different. There were some cost overruns, and I kind of coached them as to those cost overruns on the build-out to get that termed out. And I suggested they go back and update that plan, not only because they got an additional loan they're going to service, but they have a new revenue stream that they didn't think they're going to have as part of this business that's coming into it. And in the end, I think it's going to make their business even more successful than they planned a year ago. So business plans are really important.
And Paul Smith is with the SBDC. He's up in the lower level of the incubator up at NDSU. It's a 100% free service that we're all paying for through our tax dollars anyway, so take advantage.
I'm Dave from CEO Solutions, by the way. We work with the tools in the traction model. Our clients are doing an annual development of their strategic plan. They're doing quarterly reviews of their strategic plan. But they're also, as a management team, meeting on a weekly basis to make sure that the initiatives that they've implemented to pursue their strategic vision, that they're on track for that. And you might say to yourself, wow, that's a lot of meetings. I would encourage you to talk to any of our clients and ask them about that, because they'll say they're so purposeful, so focused, and so on point. They're actually working on their business rather than in their business to drive it to their strategic vision. So talk about drinking the Kool-Aid, Mike, with keeping that going. And I run into it all the time. A lot of people don't have a strategic plan and don't have any idea where they're going. And so that's the commitment that our clients have made to their strategic vision. How perfect was that?
Oh, well done, man. Can't stop. Next question. How can we encourage our people to see that the effort to get from good to great is worth it? Does that make sense? You run a good company, everybody wants to run a great company. How do you encourage, incentivize, motivate people to understand that it's worth it to get to that level?
Apparently you lock them in a room and tell them they can't go to the bathroom.
You put 3 minutes on the clock.
Take their mobile phones too.
I think part of this question has to do with the ages of the people. I think we work in a lot of different society, or in a lot of different groups, and each group is motivated differently, so you have to assess who you're trying to motivate. So I don't think it's as simple as just one quick answer.
We need a simple, quick answer. Mike?
I remember Andre's quote from December, you share it, about creating the people buying into the future they create.
Yeah, we have and people support a world they create. And so it's about engagement. Yeah, that's my word, that's my thing, is engagement. And so when you bring people in and you listen to them and you hear their valuable input, their perspectives and their wisdom, they're helping design that future and that vision. And they're bought in and they're committed to it as well. And so it's through engaging people in the process and having that shared experience, and you'll get the outcomes and the commitment behind it.
I mentioned this last month, but it's worth mentioning again. Dave Dietz at Preference, they do VTO, volunteer time off for their employees. It's 16 hours, whatever it is, on the clock, but they can pick the local charity of their choice. They go out there and do whatever needs to be done at that charity. It has nothing to do with their job, but indirectly it has everything to do with their job, which I think makes it a valuable tool. Brian?
Yeah. So it always comes back to the vision of the business. Where is this business going? If it's not clear, if the vision isn't clear at the top, you can't articulate it through the ranks of the business, and you can't encourage people on something that you're not clear that you're trying to encourage them on. So get clear about the why of what it is you're trying to create, and through that you can articulate to your people what it is you're expecting. But until everybody knows what they're expected to do, they can't begin to do what they're expected. So be clear about what the objective and the vision of the business is, and be clear about what it is that you need from each of the players within the business.
This was my question, and I really want to know if people do want to get to grade.
I feel like in our community, we're like, good. No, we're good. No, I'm good. I don't need any more of that stuff. I'm good.
That's
And I
another good thing.
wonder if that's just my opinion.
I totally done with your question. There's 800 words on it, I know you can tell.
The interesting thing about that is the businesses in the book that Jim Collins wrote, based on a whole bunch of studies actually, didn't set out to be great. That was his definition. He decided what the criteria were to be a great company. Those companies, those characteristics that built those companies from good to great, based on his definition, they were just doing what they thought was right. They were just building what they thought was the right thing to do. He was the one that gleaned out of all that data what were those common characteristics. And ownership is a big one.
Excuse me, I'm trying to work with the microphone on.
Okay, well, Chris trying to building awesome. Everyone.
Next question, independent contractors versus employees. What are the key differences according to the IRS, and what is my default status of employees? Anybody in the HR industry?
Yes.
Darcy, you want to hit that one?
Sure.
Sure. Darcy Fuchs of Payroll Express.
So one of the big things that people think is the difference between an independent contractor and an employee is how much I pay them. If I pay them less than $600 over the course of a year, like maybe they're just going to work for a few days, that makes them an independent contractor. That is not true. There is absolutely no wage definition between independent contractors and employees. It has to do with do you provide them equipment? Do you provide them supervision? Do they answer to you? When I hire an independent contractor, I get to tell them what I want done, when I want it done, and they determine how it's done. And an employee, I determine how it's done. No, I want you to do it this way. You're using my equipment. You're using my my vehicle, tools, whatever. So.
Thank you. Anybody else have input?
Does anybody know what the IRS expects by default? Whether you're employed, whether the people that are working with you or for you are independent contractors or employees, what's the default status? Employee is the default status. You have to be able to show all those things that Darcy was saying in order to support the idea that they're not employees.
Make sense?
Yeah, the IRS provides a very clear checklist that you can go through, and it tells you that they are qualified as an employee or they are qualified as independent. And that's an IRS form out there.
If you want to Google it, it's the SS8, number 8.
I was just going to say, I have a fabulous accountant, and he has held me accountable to whether, employee and how we're engaging with that person and how we're directing their work, so the W-2 or the 1099. So my accountant has been very valuable to me.
We saved another minute. Next question.
You guys are going to have to create more questions.
Do we really need a designated CRM solution? For example, Salesforce, Zoho, Dynamics, versus using tools like Outlook, Excel, or Smartsheets. How many people have a CRM? What brands? Just shout them out.
We're switching to Salesforce,
Salesforce?
From what?
the proprietary one.
Next level suite.
Hmm?
Next level suite.
Okay.
Clarity Soft.
Yellow sticky notes.
Yellow sticky notes. Spiral notebooks. Yep. What's the advantage of a CRM over not? How many people use it effectively, efficiently, differently?
We have Salesforce, but most of us use a spreadsheet because we're used to it. We don't have to learn anything new. We can just go and do. Where there isn't, we haven't been offered training on Salesforce, so maybe if I had a training, maybe I'd like it better, but at this point there's just too many buttons and I need to do my work.
That's one thing I hear from a lot of owners is that one, it's the cost of the software, two, it's the cost of training everybody to use it. And most companies put them in, they get 25% in, and it sort of sits idle for the next 5 years.
Are people using tools like Outlook, Excel, or Smartsheets effectively? Dave? That's a big Dave's back there. You want to talk about it?
I love Excel.
So you would say it's effective.
Yeah, I do everything in there. All taxes and everything. Just love Excel. You can do it all.
It can do it all. Wow.
I have a CRM implementation background in another life, and tools are awesome and amazing. A lot of it can be independent of the tool you use. It's about the people first and the process second. So independent of anything that you're using, Heather, back what you said, if the people are trained, if they aren't supported, if they're not bought into it, if they're not included in what's that process going to be, none of it will be a success.
And there are tech companies in town that do free training on different products. You just ask around and look. Pause. Cancel.
I think it'd be interesting to get these two guys' take on how they use it for big development, which would relate to the sales world. And because you guys use software, right? And the advantage and how you leverage that would be interesting. That kind of chance spot working?
Okay.
I grew up with Mike, and he does this stuff to me. No, we have a CRM for donors, and
this is with the Ann Carlson Center.
Ann Carlson Center here across the state, and it's important for us because it helps us really organize our work. When we're statewide like this, in order to do our work, we got to be very focused, and so. But Andrea's right. If you don't have the buy-in and the ability to train your staff in it, it's not going to be effective. We have been able to do that. We've invested in it long enough that it's actually a pretty quick turnaround for us to put information in, pull information out, and it's very key to the work we do. And it helps. Part of that is not only investing in putting it in there, but then deciding how are you going to segment those names and those people in order so that you can really target your markets and understand that not only by location, but if you can get deep enough into it, you can do it by net worth, you can do it by whether they have grandkids or not, whether they have used your products in the past, whether they have had services, how long they've been with you, levels of business that they've done with you. All that's great segmenting that can help you really target your marketing and target your efforts, and you get good results out of that.
I'm the other half of the Ann Carlson Center, so from a less management answer, I still pull everything on Excel. So I will use the CRM tool for notes and here's who we've been contacting and when, but when it comes down to brass tacks, I have my spreadsheet. These are the 10 people I'm calling this week or 100, whatever the number is. And so I use it for the notes for the most part and when the last gift was, but for the most part it's just downloading into Excel and then manipulating that information so I can use it a little bit more efficiently.
Good, honest answer.
I'm going to get in trouble now again.
Next.
Why are you doing that?
I hit the pause button with my finger while I'm doing this. Is why the alarm didn't go off. So. Next question. When selecting a lender, bank, or credit union, what 3 traits or factors most influence the decision?
In-house underwriting.
In-house underwriting. I think we have representatives of each in the room, bank and credit union. Correct? Pardon? Fresh baked cookies. Alaris has popcorn.
Lisa? I think it's a relationship versus transaction.
I've worked with several different major lenders in town, and I will default always to the relationship manager versus the transactional manager every time. When we were with a transactional lender, I felt like I had to bring everybody up to speed before every project. And I currently bank with a relationship manager-based bank, and they initially, maybe the investment of time is a little bit more, but they take time to know what everything that you do is and how it fits together. So that's been just invaluable to us.
So when you think about it, you set standards for the people that work with you. And you probably set standards for the target clientele you're working with. How many of you set standards for the vendors you're working with? Yeah. How many of you who raised your hand, is it about relationship? Something to think about. It's when I work with businesses, that's something I bring up because sometimes those vendors, especially when you're working with other consultants or someone who's working with you to deliver on something for a customer, they're also representing your brand. So setting standards on who you're working with on that vendor side of the house is important.
And oftentimes we have the agents that we work with. We have our relationship people we work with, the agents, for example, in your business. But it's usually their assistants that get the job done. So we interview not only the business owner, but their support system as well.
Great idea.
This is a part of the job.
There we go. How to identify benchmarks for financial performance. Benchmarks for financial performance. Performance indicators, KPIs. Who keeps a stringent KPI list? That's it. Good thing that went off, I would remember to restart. Dave.
One of the things we work on with all our clients is their scorecards. And so the encouragement and part of the model that it's a tool in the traction model is to develop that scorecard. And the question really is, if you were on a deserted island, all you had was your cell phone and all you could receive was texts, what are the 4 or 5 pieces of information you would want in that text that would tell you that how well your business is doing? How healthy is my business? And I can tell you that most of our clients never had anything like that. They looked at their checkbook, well, I've got cash in the bank, so that's my cash position. So I got X thousand dollars in the bank, but I forgot that next week I've got to pay my insurance premium. And so our clients are looking at anywhere from, we have one client that just told us in a coaching session that as a leadership group, there's only going to be 4 numbers they look at for their organization to tell them where they're at. And remember, they're looking at this on a weekly basis. I have other clients, because they established a scorecard, were able to identify anomalies, things that didn't seem right. And one client was able to identify one week an anomaly, pursued it, and realized that somebody had made a mistake, and it saved them $6,000 that week for the next week. And so what are the key things that you look at in your business that at a moment's notice would help you understand the health of your organization?
Do you remember what those 4 were that company chose?
No, I don't. No. They used to show up, their scorecard was their entire general ledger. That didn't work very good, because there was just
too much.
Well, too much, and some of it didn't matter. what numbers really matter to you. Sales-heavy organization, we're seeing the pipeline, and the quality of the pipeline really matters. One client I met with the other day was talking about their conversion ratio. They know they've got their conversion ratio has gone up from 26 to 34%. And so they know if they've got X opportunity in the pipeline, they're going to convert 34% of that, so they can almost project their revenue over a given period of time. Those are the kinds of strategic things you get from a scorecard. And so, you know, cash flow, but the quality of the pipeline, new opportunities, closed business, revenue, and then a cash position. Whether you can get that on a weekly basis or a daily basis, I guess depends on your system. But they're getting it on a weekly basis, so they know how much cash they have. So it's anywhere from 4 to, we've seen up to 15 key indicators. Marketing, human resources, employee turnover, and then the financial metrics that some of you would be familiar with looking at consistently.
Did you hear that noise?
Yeah, but it didn't stop me.
Speaking of strategic, what have others found to work? Think process when it comes to strategic planning. What works? What's the process?
Hiring the right firm to do it for you.
There you go. That does work.
Are you familiar with SOAR? Anybody heard that process? You know SWOT, right? SWOT. SOAR is strengths, opportunities, aspirations, and results. So it takes out the negative, weakness, and threats, and looks at everything from the positive. And it's interesting. I like doing that, using that, because you know me, I'm kind of positive.
I like to stay positive. Jody Bach, box office. Strategic planning.
Yeah,
Brian Rickey.
One thing that's happening more and more is breaking it down to quarterly plans. When you think about annual plans, those become long, drawn out, oftentimes too elaborate. So getting your strategic plan down to a quarterly basis is really one of the key aspects of being able to manage it, just chunking it down into a manageable piece.
And then to monthly, and then to weekly, and then to daily. And
absolutely.
If everybody's got a strategic plan and goals every day, it's amazing what gets done in an organization.
A couple of things that I see often skipped in the strategic planning process is a really good assessment and evaluation of the current reality of the organization. Where are you at today? What are those successes, whether it be your SOAR or your SWOT or whatever it may be, is what is that current reality? You can't get to a destination. You can have all these grand ideas about the vision and where you're going, but unless you know where you're currently at, you're going to not know that path to get to that destination. So invest in understanding the current reality. And the second thing is, what are the barriers and contradictions to getting there? So if you're in a path, there's boulders, there's little rocks, there's different things in your way. But unless you talk about those barriers or contradictions, you're not going to put the right plans, goals, initiatives in place to work with those. It doesn't mean you have to move the boulder, but you have to work with the boulder. And those things sometimes are not so obvious. They can be things like a culture, an attitude. It's the way we've always done things. So those are the two things that if you're doing strategic planning that I would impress upon you to not neglect.
One thing that we've been doing when we've been doing strategic planning is getting away from the office, go to a different location, away from the phones off, just away from our normal situation to free our minds and think and what we want to get to. That's how.
Yep. Which is a nice segue into our topic next month is the power of a clarity break. Just for the owner to literally block time out of their calendar for 60 minutes a week and get out of the office, take an overhead look at their company. So we're going to talk about how to do that, why it's important. Done. Cancel. Start. How clearly defined should accountabilities be within our company? And how is that process? Accountability is huge. It comes up almost monthly at these events. Who's got ideas? I'm the only employee in my company, so there is no accountability whatsoever.
So 46% of new hires fail within the first 18 months, according to Leadership IQ. And one of the reasons they say that is that it's not because they're not good people or they don't work hard, but it's because they have a lack of clarity in what it means and what it takes to win in their role. And so we think that this should be very, very clear. And at Sage Agency, we do a lot of different things, but we get the most feedback. People in our proposal say, that sounded really, lame when we talked about it with this thing called job benchmarking, but it's actually maybe one of the most effective things we've done in a while. And so what we do is, again, lock people in the room, but we let them leave this time, and actually ask a couple questions. First one, why does the job exist? And then two, what does it mean to win in the role? And then come up with actually key accountabilities, which are really crisp statements in terms of, hey, 1 year from now, if we're all here and you celebrate a new hire or you're celebrating the current employee and you say they have knocked it out of the park in this particular accountability, what will we say is true? What's the evidence of success that we say that, yes, they knocked it out of the park? And typically there'll be one or two measurements that really matter. And those measurements, when you take all those key accountabilities and the measurements underneath, then that creates a job scorecard. And it literally creates no place to hide. So if somebody wants to win, they have everything they need to take to win. If they don't, and they're the type of employee who wants to hide out, they don't get to hide out because it's all right there in front of you. They're accountable and they're reporting on that. And people are really proud to report on, hey, ding, 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 we won this week, we won this month, we're winning this quarter. And that drives engagement when people feel like they're winning. So that's the message.
Very nice. Mr. Munson?
Our question is always, how can people perform if they don't know what they're accountable for? And it's not unusual to find employees that have an idea of what their job and their role is, but no, it's never been laid out for them. Tasks and duties just aren't enough. And they can also be a wall to hide behind. Accountability, the broader statement of what my job needs to accomplish, really helps, and maybe Andre would talk about this too, really helps engage me that I feel I know what my role in the company really is, what my contribution needs to be, and now I get to use some autonomy, creativity, and engagement to pursue what the organization is expecting from me. When you put accountabilities in an organization that have never had some, you would be surprised at the amount of excitement that you get, both from the leadership team and from the employees regarding where the organization is going.
The level of communication tends to increase too.
Yep.
Because you know what we're all accountable for and why we need to connect.
Yep. That's what I was just thinking about when Dave was talking. Kind of the underlying theme of every one of these questions is something we didn't talk about so much 30 or 40 years ago, was transparency and communication within your company. It's foremost for a lot of companies these days.
Can I steal a few seconds?
Of course.
The other kind of facet to this is coming up because you've been what? You've been delegating. Well, the foundation to delegating is actually trust. It's trusting that when you hand off the ball, they're going to do what they're supposed to do with it and not drop it or not put it somewhere and forget about it. And when things aren't going right, they're going to come to you and tell you, things aren't going right, I'm not going to be able to accomplish this. And trust actually comes from training. You as the manager or the owner, by looking at the position description and doing the work that Mike's been talking about, of clearly defining what success looks like, means you also have to understand, what do I need to do to support that in the organization so those people will actually do that? So all those things are linked together.
And accountability really breaks down into your ability to account for. And that comes back to, what are the measurements of the job? What does it look like when we succeed? If you don't have those things clearly defined into a scorecard, then it's very difficult to have the ability to account for what is required.
Okay, next question. How do I encourage customers to refer others to our business? Simple question.
Ask them.
Ask them. I had a cat named Ask Him once. People would say, what's your cat's name? Ask him. That was cute.
My dad had a dog named Guess. It seems really simple, but if you don't remind your customers about the great service they've got and that you provide that service to other people, they don't think about referring. So it's really seriously as simple as just asking them to do it.
Ideas? There's a referral-based industry. Matt Lackowitzer.
So this might sound a little crazy, but we train our staff to have every experience with a customer. Their objective is to get a high five or a hug from every customer.
Wow.
And we call that their high five or hug moment. In the event they get that moment, that's when we ask them to refer their friends and family or whoever they work with to us. We found that we talk about our referral program and all stuff that goes with it. We found that to be a huge success with us. So.
Matt's automotive. Mr. Munson.
You might as well just leave this one with me. What I've discovered in my career is a lot of time people don't know we're looking for more business and looking for more work. And I worked for years in the CPA profession as a marketing director. And how often do somebody says, well, how's it going? Oh, I'm so busy. The other half of that sentence is, I am so busy, but I could use more work like I'm doing because I'm having fun. That's the part of the sentence that everybody, that CPAs in particular will forget to add. So when you set up a statement like that right away, it's, oh geez, I was going to refer my cousin, but I don't think I am now. And I found a lot of times people don't even know you're looking for more business.
Yep.
Just to be clear, I am looking for more business, and I do like to work.
Clever ideas. Such as flag for a friend. How's that working? If you bring a friend, stop over to Superior Insurance over on 28th. Right over there. Get a free flag. And your friend gets a free flag. Nice idea.
One important hint about asking for referrals. The way I was taught this, and I always use essentially the same wording. When you're asking for referrals, make sure you're not saying, we'd love to have you send us anybody you know that you think we could help out. What you just did is you asked the person to start going through that mental Rolodex. Who's everyone I know? The way you narrow it down is to say, who do you know that would like to be treated the way you've just been treated, who you care about deeply, who you know that would benefit from this relationship? The whole point of that is to narrow down that Rolodex. Get it down to just a few people, because you're also pre-qualified. You're saying to them, I want people just like you. I don't want everybody. Sorry.
You can join this networking group called 100 Take Care. It's pretty great.
Power to the people. Should I put all of my business under one legal structure, including operations and real estate? Dave Harmon, Harmon Entertainment. Donna, you again.
So this doesn't really have anything to do with my DJ business, but I've been a real estate investor for quite a while, and when I first started this, I created a different LLC for every so much investment. So I think I have 5 LLCs right now, 2 S Corps, just to reduce the liability side of it. So if somebody goes and slips on the sidewalk on my 5-plex over here, they can...
Review practices. Looking for advice on current and effective approaches. Another HR-related question. Kim, any advice on that? Kim Bureau, Human Resource Management Group.
Thank you. I'll turn so I'll get on my back to everybody here. But I just think a lot of it depends on, number one, the company and its culture. I run across so many companies that will, when you talk about, I it gets measurements. Some will grade them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, okay? Poor, good, neutral, better, excellent. It just, I find so many different, I guess, and part of it has been, I guess, how they've been brought up, what the philosophy is, but it's probably first and foremost is just practicing with, or staying consistent with the review process itself. They have good intentions and then get away from it. Don't communicate, don't talk to their employees. I'm not so concerned about maybe the type of system you use, okay, but that you are doing something, doing it consistently, doing it across the board. Struggling with a company right now that I'm working with, where they've picked up entities in 3 different states: North Dakota, Nebraska, South Dakota, and the one in North Dakota has been doing great with the review process, performance management. The other 2 haven't done a thing, and it's creating a lot of friction. And so it's a struggle, it's a battle, but again, to me, it's consistently doing something as opposed to letting it slide and not doing anything at all.
Thanks, Kim. Mackenzie? Oh, was that just like an auction sale? Let's move forward. I don't have a clicker. You're my clicker, Andrea. Thanks. What comes first, the client customer or the organization team? Chicken or the egg? Thanks, David. What comes first? Lisa?
Always the employees. Every single time your employees. Because you can't do anything else if you don't have that under control.
I agree.
Yeah, always. And if they're not doing it, fix it.
Yep.
Fast.
Anyone disagree? Anyone dare to disagree?
You have to be the ad or you're just agreeing?
Jessica?
In agreement with that, I don't know if anybody's ever read the book by Hal Rosenbluth, The Employee Comes First, but that might be a good read. It talks to the philosophy of happy employee equals happy customer.
Yep.
Goes back to that negative impression. If that first impression is a bad employee because they're irritated at how you're treating them, you're not going to have customers.
Great. Yep. And I raise chickens, so it is the chicken that comes first. Did we do that one? How should I define the overall financial goals of my company? That's similar to the other one, the question we had. Let's see what else we got. Do I need an employee manual? How do I go about creating one?
Yes, no?
Does everyone have employee manuals?
Who has
Yes.
them? Yeah, a little less than half.
Half? Yeah.
I don't have any employees, so I don't.
Oh, shit.
Ah.
She has a limit.
I have a me.
Kim, how do you go about starting one?
Well, I guess again, by law, you don't need one. I mean, that's the short answer. I think what I find is probably when somebody calls and inquires about what I do and they ask a lot of questions, we can talk about performance appraisals, job descriptions. One of the first things I suggest we start with is a policy manual. A lot of companies will get confused and think policy, okay, in terms of procedure and operations are all mixed in with that, and we have to separate that out. A lot of things come to mind here when I talk about the employee manual. But the biggest thing it does, 80% of what I say it does, is creates communication. We talk about transparency and communication all the time, but it does create a lot of communication. 80% of it in my book, 20% of it is really probably law and policy. It does create a central point of attention, because from the top on down, you've got to have everybody on the same page. the employees are able to get a feel to say, hey, I've got an open door here, I can go in, I can ask a question. I don't care if it's from a social media standpoint, from a dress code standpoint, from a smoking standpoint, the list obviously goes on. Now, there are some rules and regs that will, I guess, go towards the size of your company with ADA and 20 or more, FML, Family Medical Leave Act, a 50 or more, and there's some things you have to have in there. But again, a lot of it to me is communication, getting everybody on the same page. Again, biggest thing I do in mine is we build it to fit the culture. We talk a lot about mission, we talk a lot about the values, and then we talk a lot about the history of the company. Again, with this day and age of diversity, it's nice again to have everybody, talking about where the company came from, how it evolved. There's a lot of, even in Fargo here, obviously in Fargo here, a lot of family-owned success stories. It's nice to keep that tradition going. So we push a lot on the value side, and the tradition side of things, so that makes for a happy family.
Maybe you can answer this, Kim. I think it's important from a litigation standpoint. I mean,
Sure.
For me, it's a legal document, and we refer to policy all the time, but we also coach the expectations of those policy or employee manuals too.
Yeah, and just quickly, like I said, law says you don't have to have one. I mean, you're not required, but it will fend off a lot of grievances, a lot of lawsuits when everybody's treated equally.
So it is in essence a CYA manual.
Yes.
Yes. Did we kind of cover the next one? Effective ways, what effective ways are people keeping their teams on the same page, aware of strategies, aware of changes, and encouraging collaboration? Sort of an overall motivational team type issue. Communication.
We haven't talked about teams a little, or meetings a little bit, and having those meetings in place to do this. When I read this, I'm thinking, whatever kind of creative ideas do people have? Creative ideas or creative communications, different things you're doing that may not be the typical meeting or sending an email. Anything you've tried? It's worked, maybe not worked? Yes.
Trent?
One of the things I did in the past when I was managing teams, I have what I call the monthly day of planning. I'd get everybody out of the office on a Friday morning, and I'd buy breakfast for them, that guaranteed attendance. And I worked with the team where we would actually sit down and write. I'd ask every one of our team members to write down what their goals are for the month. And try to keep it like 3 or 4, just high-level goals. Want to raise X amount of dollars, want to meet X amount of people. And then ask them all to take the time to write down their action steps to get to those goals. We take about a half a day on a Friday to do that. And for me as the manager, it was great because I'd take all those plans, and then that's how I'd hold them accountable the entire month. Have you set up a meeting with Mike yet? Have you talked to so-and-so down the line? But the other part about it is they started holding me accountable as well. They started asking me what my goals were. So I had to start sharing my goals. And then we all really started working really well together for the entire month, trying to help each other get to their goals. So it was really about outlining what each one of us were going to do and how that fit into the bigger piece.
We were just talking about that on Monday, Dave. It's one thing to set goals, but to actually sit down and create the steps that you need to achieve that goal is half the battle.
And as you're walking over to Dave, I was a part of an organization where the president, it was a small company, maybe 40 people, but the president was sending out it was only quarterly, could have been done monthly, but a quarterly report of his performance, of his work that he was focusing on, his goals, and what he moved forward within that time frame as well too. So lots of transparency and help people understand where their alignment was with the work, with the vision and strategies.
That wasn't at Dunder Mifflin, was it?
One thing that our clients are doing, and it's something really simple that you could add to your meetings today as an agenda item, and that is cascading messages. So we've had a meeting, we've either made these decisions or these things are going to happen. They're going to impact various people in the organization. Who needs to know about it that's not here today? And does that information need to flow down through to the employees? Does it, if it's a mid-manager meeting or a department meeting or whatever it might be, what needs to flow up and who's going to be accountable for? What should the message be? What can we share? What are we willing to share? And who needs to hear this? And so it's just one agenda item called the cascading message that comes out of a lot of meetings. Who else needs to know about what happened here today? And what can we communicate or should communicate out?
Yeah, so in other words, it's having built-in communication systems. Slack is one that's becoming a very popular one, if not already popular. I've not seen much of these, but I've heard that there's been internal web pages where you have a web page just for your internal. And I had one more. I can't think of it right now, so I'll bring it up if I think of it.
Okay. Next question. How have other structured buy-ins or ownership options? Anybody dealt with that? You have an experience?
Done it unsuccessfully.
You've done it unsuccessfully. There you go. That's usually better advice.
Happy to share that with you.
The other communication system was having weekly reports. Everyone on the team sends their immediate report, the person they're responsible to, on a weekly basis. What went well this week, what didn't go well this week, and what else is happening in your life. That gives us another opportunity to communicate.
Culture of trust. With a remote team member. Yeah.
Can I talk to that?
Sure.
This is my life, right? So I have been a remote team member since I left Robin. Robin was my last actual, in-office boss. And she made it really easy. From an employee standpoint, if you have somebody that is not in your office, transparency is 100% key. If I have not heard from you, if I have not seen you, if I have not had a meeting with you in 2 weeks, there's a problem. If I can't pick up the phone and get you on the phone within an hour or so, also a problem. Because that means I'm sitting in my office creating my own agenda. May not be your agenda, may not be what you want me working on, but it's what I'm going to work on because I have no direction. So communication and transparency is 100% needed.
But she did whatever she wanted to, but she worked for me anyway.
Mark and I have shared that position as a remote employee and a lack of trust from on the national level. So we're getting to 120. How's this working? Hands up if it is a project we should pursue.
Absolutely.
Hey, hands up if you've gotten a piece of advice today of value. Yeah.
Outstanding.
Nice job, Kurt.
Nice job, you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
This actually came from Todd Fuchs. We have a little weekly lunch once a week, every Wednesday at Porter Creek, and we get 10 to 15 business owners around the table for an hour. And Todd texted me one day, or called me after lunch, it's really a waste of our collective time to be sitting there talking about NDSU football or the last airplane movie or whatever we were wasting time talking about. You've got a bunch of experienced business owners, and that's sort of evolved into this project here. It's collective wisdom, we call it. Getting everybody together and just sharing experience and avoiding some rabbit holes and whatever we can do. So I think, as it stands, I think we're going to do this again in December, coming up into the new year. And then I think in 2019, we'll make this a quarterly thing.
Can you back up to the question before?
Yes, what was the question before? Buy-ins?
Yeah. So my thought on the buy-ins question, for ownership options. I mean, that's a pretty intensive legal and tax implications, so definitely pull your team together. But if you're ever looking at buy-sell or, that transition, my biggest piece of advice is to make sure that you're properly insured within that buy-sell agreement. Because if you are selling your company or buying a company and the other person passes away, what are the implications of that? Who do you continue to buy it from or sell it to? And so it's important to make sure that it is properly insured.
Yeah. and be the person in the relationship that's overdone their homework, instead of the one being wondering what's gone on, what's happened. Have more than enough information.
And the reason you do a buy-in at the beginning anyway is so that all the rules are figured out before something goes up. It's hard to negotiate the rules when you're already in the middle of something. So you set all that out at the beginning.
Look at the questions we missed. Create a clear understanding of our company vision with employees. That's an easy one. Identify my target audience, clients or customers. Are there tools to do that? We did that a couple months ago here in, I don't know who was on that. Balance decision making between engaging my team and making decisions myself. If anybody wants to comment on something, just shout it out. Clearly defined sales process. Developed deliberately or organically. That's interesting. I feel like I'm in better control of how I spend my time. There's a good CEO question. How do I protect intellectual property? Anyone done that? That's a common question from a lot of business owners. Mike, any input on that? Michael?
Copyright.
USPTO.gov. US Patent and Trademark Office.
Sure.
Copyright is real easy. You just put on every document that's got your brand on it that you're copyrighted. Common law.
Common law, yeah. Was that our first question? Yeah, we went all the way around, maybe. That was our 40 we put on there. Maybe not. How do I hire for culture?
Maybe you can carry some of those forward.
We will use some of those as we go forward.
Good idea.
Cool.
Good idea. So there were a lot of great questions that were submitted here. We didn't even get through them all. I'm curious though, from the time you entered the room to now, after hearing these questions and hearing the input, do you have a question? Does somebody have a question right now that's come to mind that you've been inspired by, or to build on somebody else's, that with the knowledge and expertise in this room, if you have a question, ask it. So I want to create the space for that, so you don't leave going, oh, all these great people over there and I had a question. So do you have a question?
There's 7
question
business
is it?
coaches in the room right now. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Lisa. So I was talking to Heather. I was talking to Heather earlier, and so I'm not a member yet. Right?
Yeah.
This is my first dip my toe in the water. And so she was highly praising of your, there's a forum that you all have, that you can like ask questions in the forum, or?
On the Facebook page?
We have
okay.
a closed group on Facebook.
Okay.
So it's 108 members only, so yeah,
Yeah, okay, great.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to know, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And every time I ask questions, I get an answer of some sort, like shut up. Yeah, it could be something really great, like shut up there.
That's a great feature on Facebook. You can set things, you know, a closed group or a public business page, but I would encourage more companies to have a closed group for their company on Facebook. It's an easy way where the public can't see what's going on there, but you could have inter-office communication right in your own little Facebook group, which is what we have for our membership.
What caught your attention about today's format, about today's questions? What caught your attention today?
With a wide variety of topics. If you have it too narrow, you might, sometimes I look at the topic and I decide whether I'm going to cover or not. So if it's only finance related, I might not be as interested. Or if it's only... But you know what I'm saying? Sometimes I pick the topics before I decide to come.
So you thought there was a good variety. Would others agree with that, or anybody feel differently for suggestions? Generally good? Okay, we're curious about that. Okay, surprises. What surprised you about today? Maybe it was the variety. Lisa?
The level of informality and information, so which is a very positive thing.
It's good.
I've come to so many meetings, I don't need somebody to present to me one more time. You know, so this value is all here, and you guys are really valuable too. But I like the collective value, rather than like somebody presenting.
Thank you.
Yeah, so
That's
that was
huge to
high
hear,
value.
because that's been the key to these third Wednesday lunches.
And I don't know if it's summer or what, but there are 1, 2 tables that there's no, 3 tables that there's nobody sitting at. And I just wonder what we can do to get more people to see the value of this.
We've been doing these now since April of 2016, so this is what, 27 of them or whatever? This is the lowest attended one we've ever had. Yeah. So generally, we've been averaging 60 people at these, which is a perfect size room. Yeah.
If you really like this format, put out the word.
Yeah.
So next time.
Next
I
time.
like how you've been treated here.
That's right. If you like the way you were treated here.
How was the title? Does it make sense? I wondered if anyone was scared off from the CEO's roundtable. Did they look at it and go, well, I'm not a CEO, I can't attend that? Or do people understand that it's anybody in a leadership role? I don't know.
We can take CEO off and just make it the roundtable.
Business roundtable, issues, advice, and collective wisdom. I don't know.
Of what importance was today's conversation to you? Of what importance was today's conversation for you?
Somewhat important, like, you know what I mean? Like, not the most important thing I did today, but hey, it's on that side of the paper too.
Thank you for that.
I think it helps us see that we all have questions. We all don't know everything, and we can rely on each other to get those answers without struggling through. You know, if somebody else has run that path, find out what the path looks like before you enter it.
And everybody in the room is not only an executive or a business owner, they're also consumers. So it's nice to get that feedback from a consumer's perspective as well. And there's next month, third Wednesday of August, the power of the clarity break, the value and psychology of strategic and reflective time. That'll be cool. That'll be fun.
What actions are you going to take out of the space today? What are you going to do?
Work on Trent with CRM.
You're going to work on CRM?
With Trent.
Oh, with Trent.
I'm never going into a meeting with Mike.
No, or at least use the restroom before you go into the meeting with Mike. Okay, so that's a very important tip. Yeah.
And if anybody wants to follow up with somebody who talked or who was in attendance, but you did not get their name, whatever, do not hesitate to just, my cell phone's on my card, call, text, email me, and just ask, who was that person?
You know, that would be nice, like, if I was sitting here, it would have been a great thing to have a list of attendees and roles.
Yes.
You know, like, so that, right, because I made notes and I know I butchered everybody's last name as I wrote it down when you.
So everybody go see Lisa afterwards.
Yep. And that would be great if everyone pre-registered like you did, Lisa. I know that's not always possible. It doesn't happen. Thanks, Sylvia. Okay.
No. Awesome. Thanks for all being great participants. Thanks for putting these amazing questions on the wall.
Yeah,
I don't have
thanks for the
people's names assigned to them. Would be kind of handy if we could walk up and go, oh, this is my question. Here's a person who can answer it. So if it's your question, go, wave it around or go pull up a question and go find a person to talk to about it. Use them that way.
So we do this the third Wednesday of every month.